Hi, everyone. Wow, I have to do all that? Nobody told me. Welcome, everybody, to the Art of Seeing Photography with Mindfulness workshop. It's my great pleasure to explore this aspect of the creativity journey with you today. My hope is to inspire you to pick up your cameras or any other creative tool that you may like. Towards that end, this workshop will be a blend of actionable tips and engaging exercises. Our workshop today will be about 60 minutes in duration, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. Got so many toys. So two of my passions are travel and photography. They're a natural pairing, don't you think? Up on the screen is image number 1 on a flight I took to Europe a couple of years ago. For me, this image is fast impermanence. Not only will the sky never be the same again, but the plane is moving past it very quickly. So tip, always select a window seat. Then you get that. Otherwise you gotta push your neighbor out of the way. So this moment also highlights interdependence. I had to think about a lot of people who played very important roles in getting this flight in motion, getting us off the ground to where I could take that photograph. So enjoying that sunset and the inspiration to photograph it doesn't happen without those folks. Okay, so a little bit about me. Photography has been my hobby off and on for 44 years. Over the last decades, evolved into the foundation of a very focused exploration of creativity, both mine and my creative friends. So far, this journey's embraced experiments in writing books, articles, mixed media visual arts, spoken word, research and study of the creative process. Quite often these things lead me back to my starting point, photography, usually with fresh eyes. On this journey, I've found immense fulfillment, and I'm now convinced that traveling a creative path leads us to our happiness. As this journey has progressed, I began to see natural alignment with aspects of the Dharma. The creative process has meaning now in a new layer. It can be viewed as Dharma practice. Classic Paris, great place to start our travels today, along a path to making better photographs. How we do that is by strengthening our ability to see. Now, seeing is an art in and of itself. Looking is not always seeing. We look all the time, except when we're sleeping. But do we see? Okay? We're often blinded by our deluded views, which again relates back to the Dharma. Now, we humans see very selectively. We focus on what draws our attention. Okay? A camera is a machine that records every single detail in front of it. Okay? So that's an important distinction. Because what that means is it is you who must see both the subject and its optimal composition. What is your visual literacy? How well do you see? What if you had a process to guide you to better photographs? What if you approached your photography as an opportunity for Dharma practice? It seems counterintuitive, but photography is rarely about what you initially see. When you press the shutter solely as a reaction to something that caught your eye, you are taking a photograph. Making a photograph with intent is the process that requires you to invest in solving a visual problem. How can I best interpret this subject matter into a compelling photograph? Ask yourself mindfulness questions. What is my creative why? Am I inspired or curious today? Is my comfort zone too comfortable? Am I doing the same old thing again and again? How will I push my creative boundaries today? Do I need to? And most important, am I open to possibilities and to creative growth? Now pay close attention to your answers. Do they align with your Dharma practice? Do they reflect possibility language or obstacle language? Also, stay alert to the delusions of self-cherishing and self-grasping in your answers and in your photography. Focus on the Dharma practice. Okay, so this is exercise number 1. We're going to take a brief look at a selection of photographs. Please focus on each image and ask yourself where aspects of the Dharma may be found. Jot down your thoughts and impressions. Well, some people have paper. Otherwise, just do it up here. And we will explore a few of them together momentarily. Everybody recognize that one, right? You recognize that one too? So, anything stand out to anybody in those images? The art of seeing. What makes a good photograph? A lot of folks think that it's an expensive camera. If I had an expensive camera, I'd take better photos. Other times, it can be a happy accident. It could also be a highly skilled photographer. So, is it an expensive camera? Interesting question. Life is a toolbox. Okay, so whatever job we're doing, we need the right tools. So if we're doing some photography, don't spill. This could be the right tool.
That is right tool.
But this could also be the right tool. But then other times, this is the right tool. Know what my new favorite one is? This one. This is my favorite. But for the right job. Because this one can't do what this one does. More toys. So, what makes a good photograph? Is it a happy accident? It might be. Sometimes you just get lucky being in the right place at the right time. Still, it's up to you to have Dharma eyes to see the lucky opportunity and bring mindfulness to your photography. Now my friend here, beautiful, very high up in a tree. Can't get him with this. So a little story about my friend here. I was at a conference in Florida and I got up early because the morning light's good and there was a national park or a state park near my hotel. I thought, let me go take some bird shots. So I get out nice and early. There's this one little bird and it's jumping around from bush to bush. So here's what happened. This bird would not sit still. And this thing is heavy. So after about 2 or 3 minutes of chasing that bird around, and I'm asking, why me? Stupid bird, just sit still for a minute. And in frustration, I look up. and I meet my friend here. And I'll never forget his expression. It's as if he was saying, "What are you wasting time on that small bird for? Look at me, I'm up here." This bird posed for me for 10 minutes, okay? We had a connection, and I probably got about 30 shots, but I like this one the best. The morning wind was brushing his feathers up, gave him a little hairdo. Then, to top it off, as if that wasn't good enough, he says, "Okay, you've got the still photos?" He went up and flew around about 80 feet up in the air, circled around me for another 5 minutes, take pictures of me like this. So it was beautiful, beautiful moment. So that's a happy accident. Our third question, is it a highly skilled photographer? Maybe. Maybe it's a crazy photographer. Yeah, that's me. I said to my friend here, take a camera, go down here, get this, I'm going to be right there. So a lot of fun. That's Kings Canyon, Australia. So, what makes a good photograph? You. You're the number one thing. At first glance, this statement seems to feel self-cherishing. The right view in this case might be interdependence. Specifically, the camera does not take the photograph by itself. It needs you to charge the battery, insert the memory card, take the lens cap off, or in the case of your phone, select camera mode. Once the camera is ready, it's you who chooses the subject matter to photograph. But sometimes, the subject chooses you like an unexpected gift, like the bird we saw. The bird chose me. So, consider your photography as a sensual creative dance, a harmonious mix of elements that depend upon each other to reach artistic beauty time and again. How do you see? Meet my 3-year-old nephew Jackson. This was in the fall of 2020. He'd never played in the leaves before, so I took him out, and this was in between pandemic lockdowns. So I introduced him to this playing in the leaves Canadian fall tradition. It was a beautiful moment of discovery for both of us, and it's one that I will always remember. You see, Jackson, he wasn't worried about the pandemic, nor was he worried about if he had the right color jacket on, okay, or if anyone was watching or judging him, or about getting it perfect. What's the perfect way to play with leaves? He was purely in the moment. No past, no future, only the present. Young children are absolute masters of that aspect of mindfulness, being fully in the present. So my tip here, when it comes to your creativity, be curious and present. Go back to your 3-year-old self. So mindfulness in the Buddhist tradition, sati, is the cultivation of the present moment, non-judgmental awareness. Photography, when approached intentionally, is a direct training in mindfulness because you must stop. You must see, so you must disentangle your perception from projection. You must wait for alignment, the alignment of light, gestures, or the decisive moment. And you must receive. Be open to the image. Don't force it. Be open to it. Let it come to you. So in this sense, the camera becomes a mirror because it's reflecting our mental states through our compositional choices. Also a gate. The camera reminds us to slow our perception down, enough to see the world with fresh eyes. And finally, the camera can be a ritual object. It's grounding our attention in sensory detail. Photography sharpens the 4 primary foundations of mindfulness as adapted from the Satipatthana model. First, body awareness. The weight of the camera. Our breath. Okay. the subtle excitement we feel. You think when I saw that bird up in the tree posing for me, I wasn't excited? I was so happy. Sometimes impatience, like with the smaller bird at first that I was chasing that wouldn't cooperate. I was getting impatient. The camera was heavy. Also our posture, adapting to the environment as integral to the shot. Sometimes we have to climb up on something, sometimes we have to squat down to get a better picture. Feelings, the tone of the moment. In our photography, are we calm or are we agitated? Usually when I'm in a rush or a hurry and the action is unfolding, I'm agitated. But then I settle and a very nice peace comes over me, and then I'm very calm in the moment getting the images. We also look in terms of feelings, the influence of attraction or aversion on our perspective. We tend to photograph things that we're attracted to, that catch our eye. But what if we did something different? Mind, our mental states. Are we curious or are we bored in our photography? I hope we're never bored. Openness, are we open to what's unfolding in front of us? Or are we striving to obtain an outcome, a specific photographic result? And then what about clarity versus clutter? Is our equipment prepared? Are we prepared? What's around us in the environment? Okay, do we practice safety in our photographic environment? And then finally the dharmas, the patterns and the laws of phenomena. One of the great pleasures of photography is the impermanence in the changing light. So at different points of day, you can be taking the same photograph, but 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's completely different. Same subject, just how the light is working with it. Also, the independence or layers of a scene. We're going to get into that a few slides from now. And then non-self, in dissolving the boundary between the observer and the observed. Is there a connection when we're photographing a person or an animal? The bird and I had a connection. Photography becomes a living laboratory for the Dharma. Photography may provide us with more immediate access to these states than meditation, because the impact on our composition choices is instantaneous. So this is our second exercise. And if we had paper and pen, we would revisit it. So we'll have to do it up here or on our phones. But for the next few minutes, maybe we'll just do it random, ad hoc. If you take a photo of this and do this exercise at home, your focus would be on writing quickly, capture the first thoughts that come to mind about any of the prompts you see up on the screen. There's no right or wrong. You can write to only one of them, to all of them, or to a few of them. So typically in a workshop, I take 5 minutes to do this. But since we're short on the paper and pens, does anybody want to have a go at any one of these? I know it's hard work on a Sunday. No? Okay. That's good. It'll keep us on time. So, I think this is what most everybody showed up for. The mindfulness meeting photographic composition techniques. So we're going to go through all 7 of these. It's time to go deeper. One by one, we're going to examine them. And please bear in mind, these techniques are not absolutes. However, the old adage applies. You should master the rule before you break the rule. Okay? So, rule of thirds. In terms of mindfulness, that means seeing the relational tension between elements rather than isolating the subjects. For years, for decades in fact, that's what I did in my photography. Saw a nice subject, click. Didn't care what was around it. And we'll see the problem with that a little bit later. But early on, I wasn't practicing the art of seeing. I was taking photographs, I wasn't making them. So the rule of thirds is about relationships, and it's expressed through space, direction, and placement within the frame. So let's take a look. aka Ayers Rock in the Australian outback. I was fortunate to spend 3 days there in 2018. This image was taken on day 1, shortly after our arrival. Instinctively, when I saw the clouds, I knew this was going to be the best day to photograph. Sure enough, next 2 days, boring blue sky, sunshine, no clouds. Now, it's a natural instinct for many of us to place the primary subject in the center of the photo. To make better photos, we need to resist the centering instinct and employ the rule of thirds. So look closely at Uluru. I decided, because the sky was so interesting, I gave it 2/3, and I gave a little bit, Uluru got the bottom third with a little bit of the grassland for context. Okay, so this is what I see in my mind. This is how I break it down. Okay, that's rule of thirds. So another composition consideration here. I was dialed in that day. I had to wait 20 minutes for the clouds to pattern this way, because when this one came over, they were going in this direction. Big dark shadow on Uluru. I didn't want that. So I waited. All these other photographers came, click, 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 and I'm like, no, I'll wait. So even my friend I was traveling with, he's like, I'll see you later. But you remember, you're controlling the placement of the primary subject in the frame. Keep it out of the center, okay, unless that is the best composition. And we're going to see some photos later where it does show that's the best composition. So, in a horizontal landscape or cityscape photograph, the question you ask yourself, what is more compelling, the sky or the ground? If there were animals, in front here, kangaroos, I would have taken the ground with the kangaroos and less of the sky. Well, actually, I would have taken both. So when in doubt, keep shooting, take both. Okay, so this is what a full rule of thirds looks like. It's both horizontal and vertical. So this shot was no accident. What originally attracted me was the graffiti, and then I saw the riders. So I watched them for a while, and then I understood this fellow here kept doing the same trick he was practicing. So I said, okay, let me look at that, and we'll dig deeper into this when we get to the technique about layers. Okay, our second technique, leading lines. This is tracking where your eye moves inside the frame and inside the mind. It's something we do naturally, but we rarely, if ever, consider it. Our eyes just naturally move through a photograph, gathering information, then perhaps rendering a judgment, positive, negative, neutral. And then our eyes are off to the next thing. That's how we work. So what I'd encourage you to do, slow down, observe the process, specifically watch how your eyes move through a photograph. It's very interesting. Once you understand this process, you can then employ leading lines in your composition to deliver more complex and pleasing images to your viewer's eyes. Anyone want to tell me how their eyes move through this image?
The train.
Yeah, but from which part of the frame to where, and in which direction? Up or down?
Down.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was exactly my intent. I could have put this right in the middle, but I pushed it over here and said, okay, I want the viewer to go down this trail. This is exactly how I climbed up, and then across, and I end up here at that other peak over there. Lots of lines here. Where do they take you?
The sky.
Yeah. Notice we've kind of got an X pattern here. Okay? So no matter where you enter this image, here, there, or there, you're going to wind up here. Then where you go after that, your choice. So in this image, there's a strong diagonal line that dominates the frame. And my friends who know me, they know this is one of my tricks. Our eyes move from the bottom left corner, taking an upwards trajectory to the right. Now notice the difference between these two images. Okay, the one on the left is standard. This is when we're taking photographs. This is our instinct. We just click. Okay? That's what the majority of people use. If you want to have your photography be different from everybody else, the art of seeing occurs when we're mindful to go beyond what is standard and generic and to explore our creative options. So we turn the camera. Now, it's subjective. You may prefer the first image, and that's fine. The point is to explore and know that you have options. Negative space. Honoring emptiness, silence, and non-doing. Negative space is about giving your image, not everyone, but some of them, give it some breathing room. Okay, more specifically, the primary subject of your image. It's about possibility, imputing a sense of the moment. Sometimes giving rise to a sense of possibility. A good photograph makes the viewer say, what's going to happen next? Okay, in this image, the massive bulk of the ship dominates the left side of the image. Its leading lines take us to the far-off horizon. Okay? The sky is the negative space that balances the image and allows the ship somewhere to travel. Okay, it's very important for people, animals, cars, ships. Give them somewhere to go. Okay? There is impermanence present in this image. Neither the ship nor the clouds will stay this way for very long. They're both travelers in motion. So depth, or what I call layers, this is the recognition that a scene is never one thing. It's foreground, midground, background, like the layers of an experience. So this is really the art of seeing. This is where you really get it dialed in. Now, in my opinion, this technique is right at the top of how to make better photographs. For years, for me, layers were both figuratively and literally in the background. I didn't pay attention. I was predominantly focused on the primary subject and mostly oblivious to what was around it. Once I began to practice the art of seeing, I slowed down and I brought mindfulness to my photography. I truly began making images by seeking out layers to add depth and complexity to my photographs. This was a game changer for me. Okay, this is a seemingly ordinary image, but it tells an important story. Now, full disclosure, I was wearing my real estate appraiser hat. That's my day job when I took this photo. I was thinking I might use it in a future teaching presentation with my colleagues. This image perfectly illustrates impermanence. And it clearly shows the transitory nature of large cities. So in the foreground, you have a vacant lot. There's nothing on it. It's car or truck parking. It's waiting for a building to join it. Okay. These buildings behind, the 2- and 3-story buildings, they're about 100 years old, most of them. Okay. They're fully depreciated. They're awaiting redevelopment. They still have contributory value. They're still small apartments and they're still stores in the storefront, but they're nowhere near the optimal or maximal return on the value of the land that they're sitting on. So they're going to go. This next layer, the shiny condos and office towers, that's highest and best use. That's getting maximum value from the land. Okay? And then there's one more layer. The night sky. Okay? A vast inky darkness of mystery as a counterpoint to the beehive of activity below it. There's our bikers again. On a meandering walk through the neighborhoods of Barcelona, this colorful graffiti caught my eye. Then I noticed the riders. And then the light bulb went off. There's a photograph here. So I began to set up the image. Graffiti layer. 2 stationary rider layers. And then finally, the primary layer of the subject rider performing the BMX stunt. So 3 layers. I watched several loops of the rider and saw he was working on the same stunt. I caught eyes with all the riders, held my camera up. They kind of nodded. Yep, you're cool. Take a picture. And then once I knew what he was doing, I put him right in between the 2 riders with all the graffiti in the background. So that's the story that I wanted to tell with that image. Framing, deliberately choosing what to include and what to exclude, mirroring how mindfulness shapes attention. Framing is my second go-to technique after layers. Now, an important point here. Framing can be achieved while in the field prior to pressing the shutter or afterwards in post-production on your computer or phone. Sometimes, in the excitement of the moment, our composition is rushed, or we may be distracted, tired, hungry, simply not in our creative flow state. And that's fine. We do the best with where we are at the moment. So, let's take an Italian moment. How could I resist police taking a gelato break? So here they get donuts and coffee. In Italy, they go for ice cream. So the challenge, kind of risky. Police don't always like having their photo taken. So I had no time to compose this image. I knew I wanted it, like in a split second, I gotta get that. But then it was like, do I ask permission? No. Do I hurry up and do it? Yep. So I snapped 2 photos on my phone, and I knew I would sort it out later on the computer. Okay? I didn't sweat about my composition and framing and nothing. Just click, click, kept going. This image perfectly illustrates operating under the pressure of a time constraint with an element of risk present. So because I couldn't compose this as I normally would, in my mind I knew my framing, but I also had the override of time. Just get the shot and get out of there. So framing is basically the image cleaning process. It can occur in the field while we're shooting, or it can occur on the computer in post-production. Your preference. Specifically, we become mindful of what is living at the edges of our image, and we decide if they get to stay or if they need to go. Now, this is another very powerful technique you can use to enhance the appeal of your images. So, the goal of cleaning your image borders is to eliminate any distracting elements that are competing with your primary subject for the viewer's attention. Things like partial objects, okay, overhead lights, okay, the stairs. So in this image, I'm sure you guys figured it out. The yellow boxes are what I'm looking at cleaning or eliminating. These elements add little to nothing and are making the image too busy. So this process can be very subjective. Basically, simply find what pleases your eye. And it could be 2 versions of the same image. So what don't you see here? My preferred clean vision is on the right, and the original image is on the left. Does this image seem, much stronger to you now, once I've taken out the distractions? Okay. This is much cleaner. We got rid of this. Okay. I kept him in here because he's the third person. He's the gelato guy. But this was distracting of her and the stairs. I decided to leave the hand in with the watch because it was kind of mysterious. And the problem was, I thought about clipping it out, but to do that, I would have been too tight to the policeman. He would have been squashed up against the side. So I thought, no, I'll leave the hand in. Those are the little decisions you make. Okay, when I saw this statue in the temple gallery a few weeks ago, I immediately wished it to be in this presentation. I realized it was perfect to demonstrate the technique of framing. And so I took 3 shots of it. These are to illustrate the art of seeing process. So I actually had to think about this to do it for a demo for this workshop, because ordinarily I go right to that image. So this is how I practice the art of seeing. I see the statue. I see the shadow of the lantern tassel above it. Don't want it. Don't like this, the strip of wall, because the mat's not fully there. Same thing, strip of wall. So before the even camera comes up, I've already decided I need to remove those things. First attempt, let me hide the shadow behind the head of the statue. Not bad. But I've still got my wall problem over here, and in fact I got more wall. I think it distracts from the statue, so this is what I settled on at the end. This is fine, but not quite there. So that's the one for me. So light and shadow, attuning to constant change, impermanence. Light and how it influences the photograph is never the same twice. So if you think about it, light and shadow are how we emulate painters. So back to Ayers Rock again. We already talked about that. Light and shadow bring us to interdependence. Revisiting this photo, I was dependent on the cloud pattern moving to where it would not cast the shadow on Uluru. As we know, I invested 20 minutes of waiting. Everybody thought I was crazy for the optimal shot. Now, every time I look at this image, it reminds me of impermanence and interdependence, as well as patience and mindfulness practice. Okay, when we slow down, when we're not in a hurry, this can be the result. But we've got to invest some time. My favorite artist of all, Mother Nature. She gives us incredible photographic opportunities. This gorgeous sunset in Sydney Harbor was her gift to us on that day. Now, funny story. We're on the shoot. I asked my friend, "You got a tripod?" "Yep, we're all set. We're good to go." We're out an hour before the sunset. Find our spot, chit-chat, have a coffee. Lights changing, great. Get the tripod set up, great. Now it's this sky. Then I hear the words that I didn't expect to hear and didn't want to hear. "Oh, damn." I thought, uh-oh, that can't be good. I go, "What's wrong?" "I got the tripod. I don't have the mounting plate."
No use.
So there was no way for us to attach the camera to the tripod. Okay? The camera is not going to work. So I'm a little bit annoyed because I'm looking at this. I may never be in Australia again. This is like my one chance. And I'm just... But then I look around. There was a white picket fence right in front of us. So I thought, I wonder, what if I took my camera and jammed it in the fence? Would it stay there? It did. So then I took my cable release, hooked it up to into the camera, because the trick with this type of photography, you don't want to be pressing the shutter or holding the camera. You want it stable, and then you press it remotely with this or with a wireless. Okay? In extreme situations, what you can do is look for something stable, like a wall. So you can put the camera here like this, or like that, or if you have a vertical wall, like this. Jam it up against the wall, and that'll give you stability. So there's the result. Okay, this photo was taken on a gray, flat, light fall day. The mirror image of the trees and the water appealed to me, so I took the shot. However, I didn't feel any sense of wow because the color palette was bland. It was gray, dull sky, dull water. Light and shadow become more dramatic in black and white. So converting this image was an obvious choice. Now I like it. It's got simple complexity. It's, much better than what it was. So you keep asking yourself with your questions, these questions in your photography. Take the image. How can I make this image more interesting and appealing and exciting? What is the story I'm trying to convey? Where is the mindfulness in the process of creating the image? So, I don't know if they told you there was going to be an exam or a test. Which composition rule am I breaking in this image? Anybody know? You got it. Give that man a prize. Or you can leave now. Or better yet, come up here. You can teach. Exactly, the rule of thirds. Whenever you're doing a mirror image, that's when you suspend or cancel the rule of thirds, and you want to put your horizon line or whatever it is. You remember the picture of the motorcycle earlier? Same thing. To get the mirror image, you can't do rule of thirds. So this is another one, and I really like this one. See, this one I kept the color in, okay, because it plays with light and shadow. So what I like about this, apart from the reflection, I like the silhouettes of the building. I don't know how well it shows up under these lights, but there's a nice band of the sunset glowing there, and same thing along the top. And then you have the magic light, the twilight sky, and the dark mass of the buildings behind it. Okay, here's a trick question. I don't think anybody will get this one. Any guesses where this image was taken and what it is?
Why are you showing?
Long exposure.
Yeah, it was taken at the intersection of Bay Street and Bloor Street downtown. And what it is cars, streetlights, and traffic signals. Okay? So this is a new way of playing with light and shadow. It renders a very abstract output. So again, it's subjective if you like it or hate it. I may try 10 of these to yield 2 images that resonate with me. So why do I take pictures like this? This is about letting go. This is about not grasping at a defined outcome. Okay? I don't know what I'm going to get. So this is pure play. It's in the moment, and it cultivates trust in self and in the process. So what I like to call this is the art of not seeing. Okay? The mindfulness of letting go. Take the shutter off and just move the camera around, see what happens. So, the decisive moment. Perfect photos arise when effort dissolves and attention rests in the unfolding moment. Wu Wei is the Chinese concept that translates to effortless effort. In the creative world, it's often called flow state. Show of hands. Anybody felt that special energy where effort dissolves and the unfolding moment just comes to you? Hands? Nobody? 1, 2? Oh, come on, guys. You got to get with it. So, key thing, you don't chase the decisive moment. You show up to meet it. Okay, today's a decisive moment. You wanted to learn something about photography, see some pictures, you showed up. Okay, you showed up to meet that. You show up in your creativity with mindfulness, without self-grasping for perfection. Okay, without self-cherishing around your outcomes. Look at that picture I took. Okay, with patience, with anticipation, and ultimately with trust in the process. You will feel and you will know, those of you who haven't experienced it apparently, you will feel and you will know when you have arrived to the flow state. And then you will smile. Here's a decisive moment. These bakers in Havana, Cuba were on their morning break. They were watching me, the turista, photograph cars from across the street. I thought, hey, look at these guys all dressed in white. Cuban bakers. There's a picture. Crossed over the street, asked them if they would pose for me. The first decisive moment. They agreed and gave me a stiff, formal pose. You know, that one where they just all right, like people do. But that wasn't the photograph I was after. But I knew that I had to build some trust with them before I could get the photo I wanted. So I humored them, I took the shot, I thanked them profusely. Terrible shot, don't care. Already thinking about the next one. Then we started chit-chatting, getting friendly. And I said, wow, I got an idea. Hey, you come over here, read your newspaper. You sit down beside him and look over there. If you look, you can see this guy's got a little smile on his face because he's thinking, this guy's just, he's out to lunch. But it worked out great. That's exactly the picture I wanted. So, let your photography be a way for you to connect with people, to connect with compassion, and to see people as and where they are. That's a precious gift. A little closer to home, downstairs. Upon entering the temple one day, I noticed this scene and thought it would fit into this workshop in some way. I didn't know exactly how or where, but I trusted the moment and I mowed the photo. There's something very powerful to me in this image, and it resonated with me on several levels. What does this photograph say to you? Another decisive moment. This image, titled Passeggiata, was about the asymmetry of textures. So we've got the damaged plaster here, we've got the smooth ceramic sign over here. Okay, got the weathered beaten doors over there, and the interesting asymmetrical flagstone walkway there in the piazza. And then the sign here, Ricordi di Ravello, the newspaper, so it's linking it to Ravello on the Amalfi Coast. So those were all things that caught my eye. I wanted a picture. What I missed at looking at all of this was the happy accident. This guy sitting here with his legs, you can just see his face and his cap and his sunglasses. But I was watching that guy. So the decisive moment was him turning to read the notice on the door, and seconds later he turned and continued on to chat with his friend. So the funny story about this picture. Post-trip, I was having lunch with a colleague. He said, oh, let me see some of your pictures from the trip. So I showed him. He really liked this picture. I'm like, eh. A couple weeks later, I'm looking for 3 entries for an Italian-specific photo competition. Had 2 good ones I really liked. I go, these are solid. They're gonna get a prize. What's the 3rd one? So, well, my buddy liked this one. I'll throw it in. What the hell? Very fortuitous choice, as it turns out. Passeggiata took 1st place and a $1,000 prize. That's not free. That's my friend. He told me. So when I told him I won the 1,000, I thanked him and took him to lunch to celebrate. It's the least I could do. So the art of seeing, and in fact, photographic composition is about addition and subtraction. If you remember nothing else from today, don't get hung up on techniques. Good composition arises when you answer 2 questions. What do I want in my image? What don't I want in my image? Okay, that's the art of seeing. What did I want in my image? The hands and the calligraphy. Simple, delicate, elegant, beautiful, mysterious even. This image achieves more with less. What did I exclude? The calligrapher's identity, the crowds in the background, anything else that would draw the viewer's attention away from the primary subject. I asked myself, what do I want in my photograph? The flowers caught my attention, and then I noticed all the ladies were natural and unposed. Only one was looking at me. The rest hadn't noticed me yet. So, okay, snap. And then something interesting happened. Another photograph arrived because people in celebration often enjoy posing for a group photo. Who knew? So I couldn't disappoint these lovely ladies, so I took the photo quickly and without practicing the art of seeing. Notice the lantern tassel coming down and blocking this face. Part of it. And all the clutter over here to the left side. I don't do things like that. I'm better than that. So when I looked at this, I was like, oh, gotta try again. Now, I could have cropped out the left stuff and I could have photoshopped out the tassel, but I'm a lazy guy. I don't want to resort to trickery. I want to resort to purity, the art of the craft, not too much electric wizardry. So, once I locked in and focused, I pointed the camera. I knew this was the image I was after. There's excellent balance now between the flowers and the ladies. How did I solve the tassel challenge? It was down, tucked it up in the booth. And it was so funny because I wish somebody had gotten a photo because I'm trying to reach from behind the table to put it up. And a couple of the ladies are helping, so there's like 3 of us trying to tuck the tassel in. We finally got it, and then we settled everybody down, got our picture. But mindfulness of the small details, that's practicing the art of seeing. So here's Jackson again. And Jackson wants to remind you, like President Truman said decades ago, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. So as you travel along your path of creativity, take a lesson from the children and from Harry. Let curiosity and discovery outshine anxiety and fear. Embrace imperfect action. The famous music producer, Grammy winner Rick Rubin said, "Do what you can with what you have. Nothing more is needed." Everything you have is here, here, and here. That's all you need. These things, tools in a toolbox. The most important tools you have, this, and this. So, typical workshop, we do these creativity promises. Okay? One thing that's important when you learn new things is to do an exercise like this. So if there's anything here today that resonated with you, make a promise to yourself on your phone or on paper. In the next 48 hours, I will pick up my camera, take a nap. Okay? You're going to do something. Do something creative. Okay, you know what? You got a busy schedule. You can't fit in some creativity in the next 48 hours? All right. Next 7 days. What are you going to do 7 days from now? Within the next 7, you got to do something creative. Okay? What's something you've really, really been wanting to do that you haven't done yet? Can you do that in the next 30 days? Yeah, you can. Write it down. And then, if your schedule's really packed, you can't fit it in 30 days, I'll give you a whole year. Okay?
I take it.
Whole year. Sicily beach life. This image is all about lines, horizon, shoreline, and in particular the symmetry of the chairs. Now look at the original image on the bottom. Junk. Okay? All the things I don't like. High noon, flat light, chairs don't stand out. But I took the picture anyway. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, that little voice was saying, there's a really good picture here. You just got to figure it out. And it's not this one. It's that one. Okay. Why? Classic black and white. Notice the texture in the water now, how it shimmers. Completely different from this. Okay. Notice how the chairs pop out now. They're white. They were kind of competing or lost with the sand. Okay, the final touch. Let's turn it on its side. Because it's weird. Okay? You have to look at this twice. This you don't, but this you're like, wait a minute. Chairs marching into the sea running vertically? What's going on? Okay? So that's that. So what this is about exploring your own what ifs during your travels. Okay? I knew this was boring. I could have passed it. So no, I challenged myself. I can make something out of that. So, embrace new ways of seeing as part of your creative journey. Everybody knows that one. So again, we're going to take another brief look at a selection of photos as we previously did, and we're running short on time, so we're going to speed things up a little bit. Okay, I've already given you homework, but here's some more homework. Exercise number 4, letter to a friend. Tonight, and by the way, this can go on your promise list of 48 hours or 7 days, okay? This counts. Tonight or within the next 3 days, while this session is still fresh for you, it would be wonderful if you could write a letter to a friend, a possibility letter. And the friend is you. Okay? Or the friend could be your creative child, or anyone else who is or was important in your life at some moment. Maybe it was an uncle who taught you to paint, or an aunt who taught you about photography or something. Okay, let that person speak to you, or write a letter to them. The exercise links back to our first one about creative mindset. However, now you have a cluster of photographic techniques. You have some mindfulness practice insights. You see how they fit together. Okay, and your memories from this session. You can pair this with your creative mindset. The questions up on the screen are prompts that you may consider using in your letter. Okay, alternately, go with whatever resonates with you. Have fun, play around, cherish the freedom. Okay, we've come full circle. Hopefully, we've learned a few things today about photography, about mindfulness practice, and about ourselves. I salute the mindful you, and I urge you to develop that practice in whatever creative pursuits you choose, photography or anything else. Your creativity is a precious gift. It's meant to be cultivated and shared for the benefit of others. If you'd like to learn more about my creative journey or just chat about photography, then please contact me via one of the Insta handles up on the screen. Solar Art Studio is about positive creativity, and it's witness to the art of seeing. Fortune Cookie Wisdom showcases those quirky messages, and it's going to be a future book. And Speed Kings Inc. is my racing photography and memorabilia with an emphasis on Formula One. Look at that, right on time, on the button.
Thank you, Robert.